Hey guys, welcome. Whoa, I can't even talk. Welcome to Pro Prep Baseball. We've been away for a while. I'm Ken Arnold.
I'm Tommy Weber. We're back.
Yes, we are back. Thanks for joining us here on a Sunday night at 8 p.m. I mean, there's a lot to talk about, Tommy. I mean, spring training has started. There is that. We can talk about that.
Yep.
Finally, right? Pitchers and catchers reported this week. Not all the position players yet, but they'll be down soon, which is good. And we also have the proposed rules changes we wanted to talk about. We also missed the Hall of Fame announcements. We want to talk about that. And this is a question for you, Tommy. And I've been watching a lot of MLB Network and the Players Association and things that they've been talking about recently. Is there a strike coming? Is it looming? Is it there, but they just don't want to say it yet? I think it's there. I think it's going to happen, and it's going to happen soon.
Well, I mean, I just think that you're really seeing the game change a great deal in a lot of different ways, and one of them is with respect to compensation and player compensation. And the players have had 40 years of an advantage over the owners. The owners have acted like fans when paying players. And now the pendulum is starting to swing. I think there are a lot of people in organizations who, sometimes we make fun of them, who are now counseling owners on player value. And I think owners are now hip to the fact they don't want to wind up with Jacoby Ellsbury. They don't want to wind up paying, Todd Frazier $13 million a year. They want to make sure that doesn't happen. And if that means laying low when it comes to high-powered free agents like Machado and Bryce Harper, they're going to do it. And it's just, it's the nature of the market is becoming more like the free market in every other industry, where you're just not willing to overpay for assets that you could replace.
Yep, and it's looking like Bryce Harper is actually going to sign for over $300 million, which means Machado is probably going to sign for close to the same, if not more. Right. So I understand that the owners don't want to get into that bidding war. They don't want to wind up doing that. Everybody throwing their money out there early. That's why you have so many free agents. Pitchers and catchers have reported, and you still have a slew of free agents who have not signed. It's ridiculous.
I think Bill James made a controversial statement, but if you look behind the words, you see the intent, and the intent has a lot of validity. Every player is not worth the same, and most players teams could do without. And if you're a fungible player, and if you're not the star of the show, I think it's going to be much more difficult for guys to sign these $33 million for 3 years if you're a pretty good player. I think those days are coming to an end, especially if you're over 30 years old. Teams just aren't going to do it anymore. You don't have to.
Yeah, I was watching MLB Network tonight as I was setting everything up, and they were talking about Mike Moustakas and how, Ron Darling was on there, and he's a player. He was a player. He's still a player advocate. But he was on there saying how he felt bad for him because he's only getting $10 million a year on a one-year contract. I said, really? Is Mike Moustakas that good or that critical to your ball club that you're upset that the guy is playing for a one-year deal for $10 million? How can you be upset about that?
It's a great point. And you know what? The fact that Ron Darling played shouldn't make him a shill for the game, which is part of the problem with the MLB Network. They are shilling for the game, and they're not journalists, and they should be. They should be more responsible, because the reality is that the average player is making a fortune, and a lot of guys who just are replaceable. I mean, I don't mean to. I like Todd Frazier enough, but do you really need Todd Frazier? What does Todd Frazier bring to the Mets that they can't replace for half the price? Yeah. And like any other business owner, why would you pay somebody $13 million when you could get somebody who's basically the same guy for $5 million, or maybe get two players? I just don't know how you could say something like you feel sorry for Mike Moustakas because he's not getting $40 million, he's only getting $10 million.
Yeah, he's not getting a 3-year deal for $40 million. That's what they were complaining about. And I would have taken a 1-year deal at $10 million every year of my career.
And where is it written that you should get any more than that? I'm not really sure where the players think they entered into this agreement where essentially the owners opened the door to the vault and you walked in and took what it is you thought was coming to you. That's not the way it works in any business, in any industry, and it certainly isn't the way it should work in sports.
Yeah, no, I think, and look, I'm a union guy. I'm in a union. I appreciate what the union does for me, but when you expect to be paid 10 years out, when you don't even know what your output's going to be. Look, if in 5 years, I'm not making movies anymore, I don't expect to be getting any money for not making movies or good movies at that, And these guys are walking out there. Yeah, and
right.
These guys are walking out there, and they're maybe, putting out 3 or 4 good years, and then the production drops off. But now you're making more money than you've ever. I don't get that.
Well, in my lifetime, I've seen something really amazing in that in the beginning of free agency, people were literally up in arms that they were paying players $500,000 a year. People weren't going to go to the ballpark. There was an uproar. Now, this pendulum has swung so far the other way that fans are clamoring for owners to give guys $300 million. They really think that there's something wrong if an owner doesn't want to fork over $300 million for one player. And it doesn't matter how much money the owner has. This is another specious argument to me. If tomorrow I gave you all the money that you could possibly imagine, $100 million, $300, $500 million, and you were a team owner, you still wouldn't want to pay for something more than it's worth. Who does that? I mean, just because you have a few bucks in your pocket doesn't mean you go and spend $14 on a slice of pizza. You're going to spend $3 on that slice of pizza. And the owners feel the same way about players, and they should, because what is the sense of throwing money around when you're not getting value in return?
Yep. Renee is on. He said the money is there, though, and I think you addressed that with spending $14 on a piece of pizza. Yeah, you have the money, but I'm still not going to spend $14 on a piece of pizza. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
$250 tops, maybe.
And the owners and the players and the owners almost split revenue in half.
Yes.
It's very hard. There's no other business, basically. I mean, I'm sure there is, but it's not a very good business model to pay your employees half of your revenue because you got to pick up all the other expenses. It's hard for you to make a profit. I'm not saying that the owners don't make a profit, but 50% of revenue is unprecedented in the real marketplace.
Yeah. And how it works with anything that has the Major League Baseball logo on it, the players are getting a cut of that.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not just their salaries that they're getting. They're getting a cut of that. They're getting pensions. They're getting everything.
Yes. And they should.
Yes, and they should. I agree.
But when they're negotiating a salary, the owner has every right, the club has every right to take advantage of the marketplace. And if the player doesn't like the system, then in the next collective bargaining agreement, change the system. They don't. You can't become a free agent for 6 years. Fine, give up guaranteed. I'll tell you what. Give up guaranteed contracts, and I'm sure the owners would be more than happy to let you become a free agent after 2 years.
Yeah.
Just don't guarantee the contract. Make it like the football model.
Yeah. Renee said minor leaguers deserve to get more, especially at the lower levels. Renee, we were fighting for that back in the early 90s when I was playing. And you know what we got treated like at the union meetings by the major leaguers? Like dirt.
Right.
That's what I will say. I was there. I heard what they said. I heard what Cecil Fielder said. I heard what Brett Butler said. He essentially called us dirtbags, right? Because that was when the last strike was in 1994. And I was with the Orioles. I was fortunate. I didn't have to cross the line. We played the whole spring training. We played games against ourselves and against college teams. But the other guys that were put under that pressure, they treated them like crap and essentially said, no, we're not going to help you ever. And it's tough with that amount of players in the minor leagues and where they come from. You have that problem because any kid from Latin America who is going to make $1,000 a month playing baseball, that to them is a gold mine. To me, no, because I live a different life.
It's a different culture.
In the United States, right? But to them, and they're willing to not be in a union. They're willing to cross a line. They're willing to play for pennies because it's way more than what they would get back home. And their life is different now. So
And don't forget, baseball operates as a cartel. It has an antitrust exemption, so it's allowed to operate in a way that no other business is allowed to operate. And the Major League Players Association and the owners and everybody involved in baseball should be ashamed of themselves, because it's a terrible black eye on the entire game that you would have your future players, deciding whether or not to, buy dinner one night in the minor leagues because they don't have enough money to pay their rent. That is disgraceful. And I'm not saying that minor leaguers should be making $200,000 a year. But to pay a minor league player $1,200 a month when they've got to live and they've got to eat and they've got to travel and they're your most valuable resource is disgraceful.
I was making my first contract $950 a month.
Right. And now they're making about $1,200.
Yeah.
Wow.
And if you figure that out for the amount of time that you spend on the bus at the field, it works to like $1 an hour. Maybe. So it was difficult then, and then I spoke out about it, and guess what? Guess what happened to me?
Yeah,
I got called into a meeting and was told to shut up. Yeah. So that's how
unions operate.
Well, the smaller the union is, the stronger it can be, because you have less members that are going to cause a fuss.
The union is worried about, like most unions, the guys at the top. Mm-hmm. That's who they're worried about. They're worried about the guys who make the most money, not the guys who are fungible, who are going to have 3-year careers. So that's why you have the minor league situation that you do, and that's why you have arbitration and you don't get to be free agent eligible for 5 or 6 years, because the younger guys are sacrificial lambs for the older guys, because the older guys run the union.
Yeah. And it's a shame, but that's the way it works. I don't ever see that changing. I don't ever see the minor leagues becoming a union, ever, because the Major League Baseball Players Union will not support that, nor will they help in any way, shape, or form.
It says a lot about their motivations. It really does. So when you start to cry for the Major League Baseball Union, you really should maybe think twice about how fat so many guys have gotten over the last 40 years, and how many minor league players have had to decide whether or not to call it a career because they just can't afford to play. Yeah. That's a fact of life. You just can't afford it anymore. I got to decide. I got to go on. Right.
Yeah,
a lot of guys.
That was me. So I think we've talked enough about that. I mean, let's move on to another topic. Something that has been chapping my ass for the last couple weeks. And it's these new proposed rule changes. Have you seen any of these or any articles that have been written about these rule changes?
I have.
And rule changes that people are throwing out there, like, have you ever played baseball? What?
Which ones, first of all, are there any you can live with?
The DH rule, I can live with that. I can live with the universal DH throughout the league. I can live with that because I played under that in the minor leagues. They don't do the pitchers don't hit until AAA. So in my career, I always played under the system where we always had a DH. Didn't matter if we were playing National League, American, whatever it was. And I was always on an American League team, so we never had to worry about that anyway.
Well, you're not alone, because unless you play for a National League team, you could go from the time you're 9 till the time you're whatever, never having seen a game without having played in or participated in a game that doesn't have a designated hitter. I like the fact that pitchers have to hit. I think we're moving further and further away from pitchers being athletes and participating. I think there's a certain charm to the game and a greater strategy in the National League than there is in the American League. So obviously I can live with it. I mean, I guess it's inevitable that they're going to get rid of the DH. But I think it's a shame. I really do. I think I like baseball's unevenness. I don't think everything has to be polished and perfect and plumb and square in the game. And I do think there's a certain allure to games without the DH. It really makes for a different game. It certainly does. And another thing, if your pitchers can't run a couple of times a week around the bases, I mean, these guys. Then something's wrong with your training methods. Okay, really, you can't be telling me these are the greatest athletes in the world, and they're bigger, faster, and stronger than they ever were, and your pitchers can't run around the bases, or your pitchers can't bunt. You have all the time in the world. You're making all the money in the world. You should be able to master the basic skills that you need to get you through a ball game. But I guess it's going to happen. I mean, some of the other rules I think are a little more dramatic, if you will, or extreme.
Pitchers have to come in and face 3 batters minimum. That one, I was not a fan of that rule, that proposed change. One guy said in an article that when a pitcher comes in, a relief pitcher comes in, the count should already be 1-0.
That's great.
Yeah, I was like, what? Have you ever played baseball? So,
yeah.
And here's the question, Tommy. Who are they trying to appease here? Are they trying to appease baseball fans who already like the game, or are they trying to get new fans by doing these rule changes?
I think that may be part of the problem, is that baseball, for all of its success, I'm not sure baseball knows what its target fan is, and that's not all baseball's fault. Changing tastes, people buy the game in a very different way than you did. Obviously, there's certainly just less watching of entire games, so you've got to give people stuff that they can ingest in a way that they're comfortable. You can't tell them what they should want. You have to give them what they want. And I'm not really sure that, as it's currently constructed, baseball is in a great position to give people what they want. I just don't know that it can. And I also think this obsession, and it is an obsession now, with data and the notion that the home run somehow is going to attract people to the ballpark, I think is fool's gold. Because first of all, the home run is an action killer. The home run and the strikeout are 2 action killers. If you really want to bring more people to the ball, if you want more action, you should make the ballparks bigger. You should have fewer home runs. You would have more action. The ball would be in play more because fewer balls would be going into the stands. You'd have the triple, you'd have defense, you'd have speed, you'd have all the things that constitute action. So I think baseball is sort of, betwixt and between. They're damned if they do and damned if they don't. And I'm not really sure that they have the right people steering the ship right now, because it seems to me like they're a ship without a sail.
Yes, it definitely feels that way. Baseball is not a time-based game, is what Renee says. And yes, and the rules changes that they were trying to institute would save, they figured it out, the one reporter figured it out, 10 minutes, possibly. Does it matter to you, Tommy Weber, if the game's 10 minutes shorter?
I don't care how long the game. Baseball's problem is not time; it's pace.
Yeah.
A 4-hour game that's 17 innings is fine. If you're playing a 5-3 game and it's 3 hours and 40 minutes, it's too long. You're going to lose my attention. Look, we both are baseball people. Obviously, spent our lives in the game, but the games do take too long because you're not seeing the game. It's not the game; it's the time in between games. It's managers, Dave Roberts pinch hitting in the second inning with Dave Freese, and the game all of a sudden taking on this torpid pace from the very beginning, I think is really problematic. I do. Baseball's not a time game. What baseball is not a game of action, but it's a game of suspense. And in order for it to stay suspenseful, for you to stay on the edge of your seat, something has to happen. Because if you're on the edge of your seat too long, you go and get a soda or something.
Yeah.
You're losing me. You've got to keep people. It's like a horror movie. You got to be waiting for something. That's the great thing about baseball. It's not look. There's only 8 minutes of action in a 9-inning game. It's not an exciting game. And yes, if you don't know the game, baseball's a boring game. It is. Nothing happens. So you got to really know it, and you got to keep me engaged. 4 hours. 5-3 game that takes 3 hours and 40 minutes. I have no interest in watching that game.
Yeah, that game should take 2.5, 2:45 tops.
Right.
Yeah,
but you got to generate hundreds of millions of dollars
in ad revenue. Yeah,
you do. If you want to pay Bryce Harper $300 million, there's only one way to do it, and that's revenue. To make $400 million.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, baseball won't be around very long.
Look, if the fans want owners to spend their money, then the fans should be like the Green Bay Packers and own the team. If you were in the owner's seat, you wouldn't be so quick
to throw that money. Yeah,
$300 million, especially when history tells you, $150 million of it you're throwing out the window.
Yep.
The Mets are going to pay David Wright $92 million on that contract for services he will never render. I have nothing against David Wright.
He was a good player. Yeah.
Right. He was a very good player, nice guy, whatever. But who could possibly think that that's something that an owner and a general manager shouldn't contemplate when they want to sign a guy to a long-term contract? $92 million?
Oh, they're still paying Bobby Bonilla every year.
Right. And the Yankees are paying Jacoby Ellsbury.
Yeah.
And the Angels are paying what's his name? Josh Hamilton and CJ, all just crazy. Come on. Yeah. There's got to be some correction. There has to be.
Yep. And as far as the pace of the game is concerned, I think the players need to understand too, hey, get in the box, don't Nomar Garciaparra and be in there 10 minutes doing 8 million different things, whatever it was he did. Yeah. And I played against Nomar, and even we were out on the field going, come on, dude. Get in the damn batter's box. Let's go.
Look, what's the worst? What's the worst enemy of the defense?
Yeah, it's sitting around doing nothing. Waiting,
right. That's why you want your pitcher to work fast.
Move,
you want to get into rhythm.
Boom,
you want to move. You want. Oh my God! Did he just hit the? You want to be. You don't want to be surprised when the ball's put in play.
Yeah.
But and also look, the players can take replay is a absolute catastrophic disaster. I don't care what anybody says. Instant replay in baseball has been just an absolute disaster. It really is. It's it takes all the suspense out of the game. You never know if the guy's really out. Is he safe? We got to wait around. We got to get the guy. It's just really never. I just don't think it was made for. I don't like replay in most sports. I like the inequity of sports. I like when something happens that shouldn't happen. I get it, but replay has hurt too. It's killed the pace of the game.
Yep. Players are at fault for the delays, Renee. And yes, Jorge Posada he was a human rain delay. He would constantly go out to the mound. As good as he was, he did do that quite a bit when he was playing. And also, do I think there will be a subscription service for watching baseball on TV? There are certain subscription services out there now, but games that you see on normal cable, they will always have ad revenue. That's how they pay. That's how they make their money. That's how the teams bring in that income to pay, like Tommy said, Bryce Harper $300 million. So I don't think that a subscription service is going to replace the ad revenue that they're bringing in. They have to bring it in. It's another revenue for them. It's huge revenue for Major League Baseball. It's not going to change.
And if they did, it would evolve as cable evolved. If you remember, cable was a subscription service. When you got cable, when you went away from regular television, you thought you were getting no commercials. Yeah. Then they were like, wait a second. Why would we do this when we can get your subscription money plus ad revenue?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what would happen.
Yep, and that's exactly what happened. And now they're doing subscription services via the internet, Fire Stick TV, Direct TV, all of it, Dish Network. So there are subscription services out there, but they're just it's just another source of revenue for Major League Baseball and the companies that provide that service. So the ads aren't going to go away. As a matter of fact, I would say you're probably going to start seeing more things like the Japanese game where they actually have the ads on the players at some point.
Oh, I agree.
Somehow.
I agree. I think there'll come a day where baseball will be like golf, where every player will be on the field wearing his own uniform.
Yeah.
You're moving towards that. The proliferation of these special uniforms, special days,
special shoes.
I think you're moving towards the day when players don't have a uniform, when basically they wear whatever they want on the field. And maybe it'll be like the home team wears white and the other visitors wear gray, but you wear whatever you want, whoever your sponsors are. I mean, that is a way, when you think about it, golf is really like the free market. If you want to see Ken Arnold, if Ken Arnold gets a lot of airtime, well, Nike's going to pay him more than they pay the next guy because he doesn't get as much airtime. Well, maybe that's an equitable way of paying players, because the reality is there's no rhyme or reason for taking a pretty good player and paying him crazy amounts of money. There really isn't.
Yep.
You go to a Broadway show, the two stars make a ton of money. Everybody else, they make scale.
Yeah.
You know why? Because you could replace the guy in the chorus.
Yep.
You could replace the guy who's dancing alongside of Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman is the draw. I think part of baseball's real problem is there are no more draws. A guy like Mike Trout is a seminal player. He's terrific. Nobody knows Mike Trout exists. Nobody comes to see Mike Trout. They don't.
No.
There's not very many guys in baseball. There's no more Nolan Ryans, Randy Johnsons, that kind of thing. Real draws. Now, I don't know how that happened. Maybe it's overexposure. You know, baseball, like a lot of other things, has been overexposed. And people just don't feel the need to go to the games and see these guys. But there really aren't any great attractions in baseball anymore.
And then you can take a look at the team closest to me right now, the Orioles, as their greatest attraction. Once their greatest attraction left the game, they can't even put people in the seats. That stadium was full every game when Cal Ripken played.
Right.
Every game. Once he left the game, it's a wasteland. There's nobody there. No one now in Camden Yards, and it's a shame. They're putting out an inferior product as well. But when Cal Ripken was there, and when the Orioles were still bad, losing 20 games in a row, they still had people in the stands every single night.
There you go.
So, and that's the type of draw you're talking about. Who's a Cal Ripken anymore? Who's at that level? Who's R.I.P. Frank Robinson, but who's a Frank Robinson? Who's a Willie Mays? Who's a Hank Aaron? Who's a Nolan Ryan? Who is in today's game?
Even A-Rod, even though he was a lightning rod for controversy, was a guy people came to see.
Yeah.
They came to see him. There just aren't a lot of guys like that anymore. I don't know.
I'd pay money to see Roger Clemens. I'd pay money to see Don Mattingly, but he was my favorite player. Dave Winfield back in the day. I would pay money to see those guys if they came. Mike Schmidt, I'd pay money to see. But today's guys, is there anybody I really want to see play the game? Not really. Not off the top of my head that I can think of. Like, I got to see him play.
I'd want to see Nolan Arenado. That's who I'd want to see.
Okay. All right. He's good. Yeah. All right. But back then you could name. Yeah. Aaron Judge I can see. Yeah. I just would like to just see the freak of nature that he is. Because I've seen a few in my day. And I played against a few. But I would like to see, Aaron Judge, play and see how far he hits the ball. Even in batting practice. I just like to go watch him. But, overall, as a baseball fan, I can watch him on the TV. What's going to draw me to go there like it used to draw us to go there? There's no draw anymore. There's no reason for me to go to a game.
Well, you're never going to want to go see a pitcher because the pitcher's never going to do anything epic because he's out of the game in the sixth inning.
Yeah,
once you hit 100 pitches, that pitcher's coming out.
Yeah.
You went to see Nolan Ryan or Randy Johnson or Pedro Martinez or any of these guys, you knew you could see something spectacular that day.
Yeah.
Nowadays you're going to get your 6 innings and he's going to be out of the game. So pitchers, I don't know what the allure of any one pitcher could possibly be. And players, maybe there are just too many lumbering, 28 home runs, 78 RBI guys out there who strike out 160 times, such that you're just not, they're not sexy enough to go and watch.
Yeah. Well, I don't see myself going to watch Chris Davis in Baltimore strike out 220 times and hit 30 home runs and drive in 80 runs. So, I'm not going to see that. So, here's a good question, Tommy. You ready? The last autograph session that you or I attended.
Well, that's easy. The next one I ever go to will be my first, and if you ever see me at one, please slap me in the head because I have no desire to have anyone's autograph. I've never genuflected to celebrities or players, and I've never really, I'd like to throw the football with Joe Montana or, hit Derek Jeter some fungos, but an autograph, I find it really almost demeaning to be standing online waiting for some guy who was good at baseball to sign something. It's just not for me.
I have one, and it was Cal Ripken Jr. And that was because I got to take ground balls with him. I went into the game for him, and later in the game, got booed by the entire stadium. That's my claim to fame. I got booed for going in for Cal Ripken.
All the autographs I have,
that's the only one.
Are guys I either played with, against,
yes,
or played for me, and that I coach, and they mean a great deal to me because it's a very personal thing. You know, it really means a lot. I love having, you know, a nice inscribed photo from a player who gives you something really personal. I find it to be very impersonal. I'm asking a guy who's probably getting paid, you know, for an autograph. You know, I have to be honest. He's just another guy as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you know, he was fortunate enough to be, you know, probably a genetic lottery winner, and he played in the majors. That's great, but okay.
It's not to say that, you know, if I'm out somewhere and Nick Foles is there, you know, because, you know, he was the first guy who won a Super Bowl for the Eagles. I might turn into a giddy little girl and go ask him for his autograph. But, you know, the chances of that happening, me and Nick Foles being in the same place at the same time,
I have a good story.
Pretty slim.
A friend of mine sees Paul McCartney on the street in Manhattan. It's not too long ago. It's within the last 10 years. And he's, you know, my friend's a great musician, and he loves Paul McCartney's like his favorite. You know, Paul McCartney, genius, the Beatles. You know, forget it. I mean, you know, he's just ridiculous. So he walks up to him and said, you know, Sir Paul, I just want to thank you, the Beatles. Oh, thanks. And he said, can I have an autograph? He goes, no, I will not give you an autograph. He said, but I will shake your hand and thank you for thanking me. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I really did.
Yeah.
He doesn't sign autographs, but he'll shake your hand and he'll give you a thank you very much. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. The one time that I was in the presence of the greatest athlete ever, Michael Jordan, I couldn't bring myself to ask him for an autograph. I couldn't do it. That was the one time, Tommy, in my whole life that I couldn't even remember my own name. I just was like, whoa. And I couldn't say anything. I was just like, oh my God, this is Michael Jordan. You know, I'm just looking at him, staring at him in his eye, and he was just like, "And your name?" And I was just like, But yeah, I wasn't going to ask him for an autograph. You know, he shook my hand, thank you. You know, and then a couple days later, I actually played against him in a game, and you know, I threw him out at first base, but whatever. You know, he hit me a routine ground ball. It's my job. So
I would like, you know what? I guess if I met like Herbie Hancock or somebody who I admired as a musician, I might, you know, have him sign something. Yeah, I could say, but I don't know. Athletes, for me, athletes are just different. It's not the same thing. But that's just me. I mean, you know, I understand people, they want to, you know, get a piece of a guy, but I just don't think you're getting a piece of the guy. I think he's, you know, basically signing something and could care less. So whatever.
My other prized autograph that I have, and I didn't even get it myself. My college girlfriend, Kathleen, she worked for a book publisher, and they published.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Bitch. She is not. She was very sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, she's very nice. It just didn't work out with us. That's all. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I was a big ass, and it's true. It's true. It was my fault. But anyway, she worked for a publisher. They published Mickey Mantle's last book. And she was running the autograph session where he signed the books, and she got one signed for me because she knew I was a big Yankee fan, and she got one signed, personalized, you know, to Ken, Mickey Mantle. So that's a book that I have. It's in a safe. I will never sell it. I will keep that forever. So
yeah, I mean Mantle. I would, you know, I have something autographed personalized to me from Joe Montana, which I like. But yeah, I mean, look, it's all good. I get it, you know, but I'm not 11 years old anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, me neither. But, you know, sometimes I wish I was. So I can go back out and, you know, just run around with the kids and just play. So here's a funny story. My son, I keep bugging him. You know, hey, baseball season's coming. You doing anything? You going outside? He goes, yeah, I just called my buddy. He's coming over. We're going to go out back and we're going to hit, you know, we're going to hit wiffle balls. And we're going to throw the ball around. Right? And I said, all right, have at it. Little did he know that I was upstairs and I looked out the window while he was supposed to be hitting the wiffle balls, and him and his buddy are out there with the bats turned upside down playing putt-putt, playing golf in the backyard. And I was like, hey, did you have fun? He said, yeah. I said, there you go. There you go. I was like, all right, because I was like, yeah, you weren't playing a lot of baseball, but did you have fun? He said, yes. I said, game on. Have at it. Yep, have fun, man. Don't worry about it. So it was funny. It was pretty funny. And it is that time of season, Tommy Weber. The next 3 weeks for me are going to be so stressful. And do you want to know why? Because I got to cut 8 people.
Oh, God.
I just don't have space on my team. I have 20 kids that want to be on my team. I'm only going to carry 12. What do I do? You know?
Can't you get 4 more kids and have 2 teams?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's going to happen. The kids that I don't take will go to the other team. But now I'm getting emails, well, why isn't my kid? Do you think he's not good enough? Is he a troublemaker? What?
Let me be. I'll be the general manager by proxy. Okay. What's the name of your team?
We're the Pal Astros.
Pal Astros?
Yes, Peninsula Athletic League.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
So on behalf of the Pal Astros, the players, the organization, the manager, and all the support staff, I just want to let you know that if your kid is not selected, it's because he sucks, okay? He sucks.
That's not
Don't
fair.
call Ken. Don't speak to Ken. It just sucks.
But it's already started already. I got a phone call and email tonight, before I came on, and I'm just like, okay, all right. I get it. You're fighting for your kid or whatever it is.
Why are you fighting? I don't get it. Why are you fighting for your kid? What are you fighting for? What is it? He's not going to Harvard? Fight when time comes when they reject him at Harvard.
Yes.
Fight to get it to Harvard.
Fight for that.
Not to the Pal Astros, for God's sake. Pick your everything is not a battle. No. And guess what? If he doesn't make the team, it's fine. Yeah. He'll make another team.
Exactly. And he'll probably play more on that other team. That's why I'm saying, look, you guys go play on this other team. You're not going to be playing as competitive teams. Your son will get more playing time. He'll be able to get better because he's getting more playing time. But they don't want to hear that. They don't want to, right?
You know what you could do? That's a good – I like this. First of all, who's thanking me for playing the piano? Is that Victor? All right, Victor.
Yeah, but here's what he said next. You ready? And this one hurts, Tommy. Players who suck make great coaches when they get older.
Suck is relative.
Look, is relative. Victor, I'm going to tell you one time, and this is it. My motto is suck less. All right? I know I suck. I'm just trying to suck less. I'm working on it.
You know what you really should say to them? This would take real stones. Mm-hmm. What's it worth to you?
Oh, I can't.
Everything's a negotiation.
Right?
What's it worth to you?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I could say that. I really could say that. Look, what is it worth? But, oh, my God, the stress and the phone calls and the emails I'm going to have to field over the next 2 weeks. I can't wait.
So here's my philosophy when you pick the roster. When you get down to, like, the last few guys, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So it's all about two things. How much money does his dad have? And how cute is his mom? What's his mother look like?
I hope none of the people I coach are watching.
You know what? There's a reason why it's funny, because it's true. It's true. Oh boy.
Okay. All right. Moving on. So spring training started, Tommy. What's good? What do you like? I know the college season started. What are you looking for? What are you watching? Who are you following at college? I know you're following your guys.
Well, I got all my guys right now revving it up. Hunter Bishop at Arizona State, Gage Workman, Arizona State, Martirano at North Carolina, Dom Canzone, Ohio State. I can't name them all. I'm Tony Losi, Georgia kid who could go high in the draft. I just got a lot of really good kids that I am totally invested in their success, and just love watching them progress. And I just hope they have a lot of good health, good fortune, and just don't take shit from anybody.
Yeah, and go out there and enjoy themselves. Enjoy the time you have right now, because you're going to blink and it's going to be over.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, the kids know that. They do. I mean, as much as kids can. You know, when you're young, you don't know it as much as when you get older. But I'm you got a couple of guys in spring training. I'm really excited to see. You know, and I'm eager to see how the season plays out. Could be very interesting.
Bobby Kahn came on. He said, "Don't pick up players, pick the parents." Oh well.
Yeah, it's hard to do. Look, I get it's hard. It's not. This is not easy. I don't envy. I do not envy the position that you're in. And you know, anybody who ever asks me, I gave it to you. I give it to anybody else. Don't coach your kid. Don't do it. If there's any way you could avoid doing that, you really should. It's really tough, and it's a thankless job, and
my kid doesn't listen to me anyway.
Right.
You know, he thinks I'm, you know, the dumbest guy out there.
Like every other kid. So, and that's not. I mean, it's just hard. Your parents make it difficult. People think a lot is at stake when there just isn't. There really isn't a lot at stake when you really think about it. No. But you know, we all conjure in our heads these tremendous consequences if our kid doesn't make like a 12-year-old team. Like what's going to happen. And then we think that doesn't have any impact on the kid. You know, if you feel anxiety about it, the kid's going to feel anxiety about it.
Big time.
If you're kind of, who cares about it, and maybe once in a while you actually don't go to a game or go to a practice, the kid will think, well, you don't really think that much of it, and he won't feel so much pressure. But I guess that's too easy to understand for people to do. But
I heard something interesting after the Super Bowl this year, which was kind of interesting, and I thought you would find it interesting as well. 90% of the players in the Super Bowl were multi-sport athletes growing up.
Right.
They played multiple sports. They didn't focus on just one.
Yep.
So I thought you would find that interesting as well. So
yeah, look, I obviously those are some of the most elite athletes in the world, and by default, those guys are so good at one sport that they could afford to play more than one sport. But I maintain and I stand by what I said. With the proliferation of daddy ball and travel ball and showcasing, kids play far less than they ever did. And they simply don't log enough time at one game to become pretty good at it, such that they can afford to spend time playing another game. I mean, you know, the average kid in the Northeast plays baseball for 4.5 months, for God's sakes, when it really comes down to it.
Yep.
Take long swaths of time off, take lessons in the winter as if that's going to really do anything, and then, you know, start it back up in the spring. So yeah, it's very romantic for us to all remember how many sports we played, but that's because we were playing 12 hours a day. Now a kid doesn't do that anymore, so he can't log enough time to be good at any one sport.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we were talking about that tonight, my wife and I. My kids were like, well, what did you guys do when you came home from school? What did you guys do? You know, we went outside. We were outside. She said, well, doing what? I don't know, playing basketball, playing wiffle ball, playing tag, playing kickball, playing dodgeball, just running around, riding our bikes. We weren't in the house all the time. Like you guys are.
It's really important that we understand, too, that we did this. This is how we wanted it, because we convinced ourselves that our kids were in peril 24 hours a day if we took our eye off of them for 30 seconds. And that is so untrue. There's nothing that supports that. But that's what we did. So what happened? Video games keep your kid in the house. Travel ball keeps your kid from going outside and playing with his friends because he's got to have somebody drive him to the games. Everything's an event. Everything is regulated. Everything is organized. So you're just not going to have kids logging a lot of time. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. They're safer by being right next to me all the time.
Right. And actually they're not, but we can get into that. But we don't have to get. But that's just you convince yourself of that, and the reality is that's why kids have never been more anxious, anxiety-ridden, you know, more medicated than they ever were, and parents as well.
Well, I'll tell you this, Weber. I'm looking forward to baseball actually getting started, watching games coming up, I think, this week. End of the week, they start actual games down in spring training down in Florida. So we'll be able to watch actual baseball being played.
I think this is an interesting season. This is a really interesting season because I think people are really cognizant of There's more strikeouts than hits. I think people are going to really start measuring their enjoyment. Like I think the chickens may come home to roost soon, because I think there might be a pushback to all of this highly measured, data-driven configuration of players that yields guys who people don't enjoy watching. I really think I think people are just gonna. I think it's going to become more and more evident that people don't enjoy watching a game where teams strike out 17 times a game.
No, I totally agree. And then tonight they were talking about on MLB Network again, and I totally was like, "Who is this GM?" This former GM, and I still didn't get his name, but he's going, yeah, well, such and such, they're going to go offense, and they're not going to worry about defense and without a second baseman who's got a lot of range, because, you know, offense is key and offense is king now. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. Who won the World Series last year?
Right.
And were they not a very good defensive ball club? They were probably the best in the league. So how is defense not a premium anymore? I don't understand.
It is interesting how, you know, when the Giants won like 3 out of 5, and then the Royals won, and they all had this kind of personality to their teams where they put the ball in play and played great defense and got great starting pitching and all that. It's really interesting how little people want to emulate that, or emulate what the Red Sox did. You know, a lot of really good players, speed, covered the field, put the ball in play, really valued scoring runs and preventing the other team from scoring runs. It's interesting how defiant, you know, organizations are in replicating that. It's an interesting dynamic.
Well, everybody, and like you say, we even see it at the youth level, Tommy. You know it as well as I do. They want to put their stamp on the game, and they want to buck the system and show that they can do it their way and make their put their stamp on it. And guess what? A lot of times, and I would say 95% of the time, they're wrong. They can't put their stamp on it, and they look like, you know, I'm watching these videos on YouTube, Tommy, where everything is a hack. You know, here's 6 hacks to make you a better player today. Really? I don't.
It's funny you say that, because right before the season started, I spoke to a couple of friends of mine, you know, guys we coached with. Matter of fact, Jason Canzo, who'll be with the Astros this year, and we said, well, here comes the time of the year when you get cold water thrown on you. When all of a sudden, all that stuff in the gym, in a cage, getting the ball underhanded to you, hitting off a tee, you know, and all of that nonsense means absolutely nothing. Now you're going to want to fist one into left field. You're going to kind of want to get one off the end of the bat and just make sure it nubs through the infield. All hits matter now. And what you're seeing, if you watch the first weekend of college baseball, is a lot of balls that are hit not on a very high launch angle, not in the air, but they're going for base hits, doubles, whatever they might be. They're getting the job done, because in the end it becomes a battle between you and the pitcher. You've got to make something happen. There is no prescription, and there is no secret to being better. I'm sorry. I don't care. You can have all the technology in the world. You could have all the sophisticated equipment in the world that measures you. It doesn't predict whether or not you could succeed.
You know, and just watching players, just being around players, seeing what they do in a game situation, seeing what they do just running around. You can tell the kids that will succeed or be better than the other kids.
Absolutely.
In most situations. And, you know, just because we have this special gadget is not going to make a kid who, you know, has a tough time walking and talking and chewing gum at the same time, is not going to turn him into an all-star player. You know,
it's funny how baseball hasn't really learned from football. Football's ahead of baseball by 20 years. The whole combine where they measure guys jumping and running. And guess what? They still make huge mistakes with guys. Mm-hmm. Guys who come out of the combine with incredible numbers. And football's less of a skill sport. Let's face it. If you can run really fast and you're really big, you're going to be in the NFL. All right? It's much less skill intensive. Baseball's all skill. And I'm surprised that baseball doesn't learn from football by realizing that, yeah, you can measure a lot of things, but in the end, it doesn't necessarily tell you. It's not an indicator of future success necessarily.
No, I can name a ton of guys who were football players that I played with when I came out of college, who were blazing fast. They're running, ridiculous 60 times, and they could throw the ball through a brick wall. But guess what?
Can't play.
Yeah, they weren't very good baseball players.
Right.
And they had great physical skills, but and genetics and all of that, but they just couldn't play. They couldn't hit. They couldn't judge a fly ball. They couldn't, whatever it was, and they gave them a lot of money, and they didn't get to that level that they wanted them to get to. They were wrong in their projections, and you see it every year in every sport.
And it's a disservice. It's a disservice to the young player, because you'll start to see it. You have like 12-year-olds when they're 13. These kids are now starting to go into the gym, as if developing their body is going to make them a better player. First of all, when you're a young person, you could go one off season and change your body, but you can't accumulate the skills you need to be a good player in one off season. So you can't afford to be in a gym deadlifting if you can't catch a ground ball, if you can't throw a strike, or if you can't put the ball in play as a hitter. You've got to acquire those skills that are vital for you to survive in the game. You can't be worrying about how big your biceps and your back is before you do that. Yet, we've now convinced a generation of players that you get better by going and lifting weights and, again, taking time off from your craft.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Tommy, we've been on for almost an hour. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess.
Well,
I will say it's good to be back. It
is good to be back. It is good to be
back. I missed our Sundays. Sometimes life gets in the way, and
certainly does.
You've got to deal with those situations, and then get back to it when you can. So
that's why you got friends, pal. Because we're always here for you. We're always here for you.
I appreciate our time together on Sunday nights, Tommy, and
Me
other
too.
times, obviously.
And having Renee and Victor and everybody who, Bobby Kahn, it's great to reconnect with these guys.
Oh, absolutely.
It really is a lot of fun, and I would also encourage them, if there are any topics that they want to go over, let us know. I mean, we search for topics all the time, stuff you want to talk about. Let's collaborate and make it fun for everybody.
Yeah, I especially want to get into, if we can, this year. And what I want to do is get into doing like drills and things that we like to do.
Oh, I would love. Oh my God!
And I want to come out this summer to you and actually video you working with the guys up at the Cape. If you want to do that, I'll do it. I'll come out and I'll videotape all of that, and we'll sit down and we'll talk to the guys and what they like and what they don't like, and look, it's all about, for me, in anything that I do. I know a lot, but I don't know everything.
Join the club.
Right? And I'm always searching for better things. I'm always trying to learn, right?
And everything I know, I stole from somebody.
Yes. I learned it from somebody else, right?
I didn't invent it.
Yeah. I did not invent anything.
I think in the coming weeks, hopefully, Renee, maybe you could weigh in on this. One of the things I really think we should investigate is how, I don't know how it happened, I've basically defied the aging process. It's as if I'm looking younger as time goes on. When I look at myself, Ken?
Yes. I look younger every day.
It is pretty amazing how good I look. I just noticed that. So
you do
maybe
look good. You do look good.
Maybe we can investigate that.
Yes. I every morning I wake up, I walk by the mirror, Tommy, and you know it. You've seen me do this. Even when I was young, I say, it happened again. I look better every day. Even though I look more like my grandfather every day. It's ridiculous. It's quick story, and then we're out of here. I'm putting my tie on today. I'm going somewhere. I had to wear a tie. Okay. I put the tie on, and I go like this, and my neck comes together, all wrinkled like this. And I was like, oh, my God, I am my grandfather. Look at that wrinkled neck that I have. I felt like just crawling back in bed and never getting out.
It beats the alternative.
I know, it does. It beats the alternative. But Wow, it kind of just punched me in the face.
Oh, man.
Yes, Renee, the sheriff's mustache has been put away for a little while.
That's brutal. That thing is brutal.
Yeah, I want to bring it out. All right.
I got to do a Sundays with Tommy. Hey,
right.
give me some. Send me some topics, guys. Man, I need some topics.
All right.
I'll do a Sundays with Tommy, and if I use your topic, I'll send you an official Sundays with Tommy T-shirt. You'll be the first kid on your block
that gets
with
one.
A Sundays with Tommy T-shirt.
I'm gonna be the first one in Maryland to get one of those.
Yeah, I'll get you. Yeah, I got to give you one.
All right. So I'm gonna be up that way this week anyway. Maybe I'll contact you and see what you're up to.
Cool.
I've been coming up there quite a bit actually, and we need to hook up. So I will see you then.
All right, man. Be well. Love
All
you.
right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you guys next week. Send us topics. Send Tommy some topics for his Sundays with Tommy. And check out TommyWeberBaseball.com. He's got his podcast. Where can they see that again, Tommy Weber Baseball?
Conversation with Tommy Weber at TommyWeberBaseball.com, Spotify, iTunes. Really cool. Very cool.
All right. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. Let me find out where I'm going. I don't even know where my mouse is anymore on my computer screen. All right, guys. Peace. We'll see you. Love you, Tommy. Take care.